What are we talking about? That's a good thing. I don't know. Well, thanks for doing this. Appreciate
My
it.
pleasure.
Um, so we have just done this week the UX Rebel Summit. It's an online conference,
Right.
and one of your presentations, or like, no, you only did one. Sorry, I don't want to do it in plural. Of the presentation you did was UX tools and gadgets. Is that right?
Right. Yep.
Right. And so I totally enjoyed that one because it was an online conference, which we've, at E4H, we just do a whole bunch of online conferences. But you had your what's the name of the camera setup that you had?
It is an iPivo iZiggy.
Okay, and that means if I connect it to the computer,
I actually have it right here. If
yeah,
I don't destroy my whole
yeah, I want to just describe it.
setup. If you want to
Oh yeah,
see the wackiness,
nice.
it's like an overhead projector, but with a camera. This thing doesn't have to be on it. This is a glare glare reducer.
Okay.
So it can be much more nimble.
Okay.
It's adjustable and super awesome.
Yeah.
So it basically works like an old school overhead projector
Right.
that you might remember from
Mhm.
from school.
Yeah, it's for millennials. They used just for the millennials. It used to work with mirrors and incandescent light bulbs. That's what. So I'm an old man. But yeah, so it was really cool. It was like usually we have a camera on the speaker, which we did this time. You were speaking with the camera on you, and then also we just usually have like a slide deck or whatever. But in place of the slide deck, we had this overhead camera looking down. And for UX tools and gadgets, it wasn't just software. It was actually like hardware, right? And so you actually went through like tools and gadgets that one would need for, the phrase was UX Safari.
Yeah.
That's the phrase you used. And I was like, oh wow, that's pretty cool. So my question is, what is a UX Safari, and when and why would I go on one?
Oh, that's a one of my favorite things to talk about, I think. So,
Yeah.
there's this principle in lean methodology that is basically talking about getting out of the building, right? UX Safari absolutely applies to that and more. And so basically, you should be validating the assumptions that you're making about your design decisions for your product design, whether that's software or a mobile app or something for enterprise or a kiosk, anything that you can design. You should be not designing that in a vacuum. You need to be going out and studying people and seeing how they behave with different things and how they are using different things. And so UX Safari, I think the first time I started using that was more descriptive of ethnographic research, which is a special kind of field work where that really is a little bit more of a direct correlation with like Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom, where you're out watching lions on the plain or something.
Right, or like interacting with tribes and different cultures, right?
Right. So ethnographic research, you're kind of immersed in that, and you might want to be a little bit more incognito. But this also works for usability testing and everything else. So I think a UX Safari is really getting out of your own environment and getting some exposure to users in whatever form makes sense for the goals of your project. And that could be locally, around the corner, or it could be across different countries around the world.
Right. And so like, what things would I test? Would I just test for like, you mentioned like A/B testing of a button design, to just testing like the flow, like the ability for a user to go through an app and sign up things?
Yeah, I think that the most important thing is to figure out what questions you actually have. What information do you need to have? So when we think of UX tools for research, if the only tool that's in your toolbox is a hammer, then everything looks like a nail. So you need to make sure that you've got different tools and methodologies in your toolbox. And you need to understand what questions each tool answers for you. So A/B testing can absolutely be part of that, but you need to be very clear on what A/B testing is telling you. So it can absolutely tell you how many people are clicking on a green button versus an orange button, but it can't tell you why that is. So you need to be thinking more broadly about what the question is and choosing the right tool to answer that. So if the question is, why are people clicking on this green button more than the orange button, you may need to do some observational work where you watch people actually do whatever task that button is relevant to. You know,
Right. So it's just to go beyond just simple quantitative. It's mostly just to figure out why things are happening the way they are, so that we can then make better design decisions.
exactly.
Oh, okay. And then to figure out what tests I need to run, I need to figure out what questions I need to ask. It goes back to like, I have these problems, and then I need like a UX researcher to make sure I'm framing the right questions, get the right content. And then once I have the right questions, I can then pick the right tool or UX strategy to go answer that. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, you can think of it too, like with a medical analogy. Like if you go to the doctor and you have a sore throat, they don't take an X-ray of your leg.
Mm-hmm.
Now, an X-ray is a test that's available to them. You know, they're probably going to make you open your mouth, and they're going to look in there with a flashlight and make you say "ah" with a little popsicle stick. But they are starting with kind of the easiest, most relevant, most obvious types of diagnostics and answering their questions from there out.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. So we want to go UX Safari. We want to find out why people are doing what they're doing. And so, I mean, your presentation was mostly about like what tools and gadgets that you use, and these are actually like hardware, right? This is like not software specific, but just like actually things that you bring out there. And but the one thing that you said that was most important was the brain, right? Which was, we kind of covered that in the scope of making sure that you are asking the right questions to get the answers that you want, right? So that's kind of like where the brain comes into play, right?
Absolutely, and I think some of that too is about it's about using your brain further with the methodology that you've chosen. So you need to read up on how these different tools and methodologies work, so you're applying them correctly. So an interview is sometimes the right thing to do, but if I go into an interview and I say, hey, here's my product, you like this, right? That is not going to get you unbiased feedback. It might make you feel good, but it's not going to be really useful information to you.
Right.
So you need to learn things like asking non-leading questions, how to be neutral and not give a lot away with your body language or your facial expressions. Basically,
be stoic.
I think UX researchers are probably good poker players because they need to. It's the same kind of skill in terms of just not showing any reaction to things, right?
All right, cool. Yeah. So you're telling me to go play poker? That's what it's telling me. I'm sorry, the UX school is for poker. So one thing to mention is, like, I thought that was kind of interesting was actually get a really good digital camera and not rely on your smartphone.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, a smartphone is fine as a backup. I think it's fine. It's fine as kind of an emergency kind of stopgap, but you need to really be clear about what the limitations of your smartphone's camera are. And there are different sensors that are put into standalone digital cameras for image stabilization, for low light conditions. Just a regular standalone digital camera is going to take a better picture, and it also is going to have optical zoom versus digital zoom. And the way that your camera works with digital zoom, which is on your phone, it's taking a picture and then just the computer is magnifying one small portion of that picture. And so as you need to blow that image up for whatever purposes you need in terms of conveying that information back to your team in the office, you're going to be losing fidelity with that. So you're going to be better off making that investment in. It's still a consumer level tool. I'm not saying like go out there and buy a professional photographer's camera. You don't need to blow $1,000, but it's worth a $300 investment to get a good camera, and you don't have to upgrade it constantly either.
Right.
Once you have a decent camera, it's with you.
Right, and I figured it'd also be better just to have a separate camera in case you need to make phone calls or something like that. Like, it's not, your work is not like interfere with my personal life or like other things that you have to do.
It's so disruptive. You might be getting some kind of messages coming through, if you're trying to use your smartphone. The other thing is storage and just the capacity. So if you have a standalone digital camera, you might be out and you might be taking photographs all day long. Your camera is also capable of taking some video in a pinch that way. And you can change out a tiny little SD card, and then you're starting from scratch all over again. Your smartphone is going to have a limited capacity to how many photos and how much video you can have on there. And you don't want to be limited by that and find out you're out of space when you're just about to take a shot that's really important.
All right, so this is probably a basic question. I probably should ask this like 2 minutes ago. Why would I need a camera if I'm out in the safari? What would I be taking photos of exactly?
Well, you probably want to be taking photos of, so if you're working in an enterprise, you might be getting out of your building and getting into somebody else's building, right? So you want to understand the context that your products are being used in. Okay. And that can mean a lot of different things. So is it an urban environment? Maybe that's out on the street as part of your safari. If it's an enterprise thing and you're visiting other people, your customers' workplace, you would love to see their desk, probably, and what their office is like. Are they in a big bullpen? Is it a cube farm? Do they have private offices? Is it open plan workspace? Are people wearing headphones? Just all kinds of details that you can't, you can write them down, sure, but it's going to take you a lot longer to capture all of that detail versus the detail that you're aware of kind of ambiently that you can capture very quickly with just a couple of snapshots.
Right. Yeah. So definitely, it's almost like definitely taking a film crew with you and documenting this, other tribes out there, but just seeing how your web product or a physical product is actually used in the wild. So that's why you want to take it. And a picture is 1,000 words. So now I understand why you'd want to bring a camera with you.
And you might want to bring a dedicated team member just to take those photographs, and maybe somebody would direct them a little bit in terms of what's important to capture, but just having that assigned to one particular person can be a big help too, in terms of letting you focus on other aspects that you need to be worried about while you're out on safari.
Right. So I have this camera, and then that's one of the things I liked about your presentation was that we didn't have slides, but you had a camera overhead. It was like you actually brought out, you put your camera into and other tools into a plastic see-through container bin.
Right.
Is that behind you right there? Can you bring it?
Yeah, it's still behind me. I haven't got a chance to pack that away yet, but
So it's just like a, I don't know, like is it 9-foot tall by 12-foot storage bin? Is that?
That's a really big bin.
That's a big bin.
I think
12 foot.
I think inches.
Yeah, inches. Yeah. Well, I'm 6'7", so
that's true. You do operate on a different scale than the rest of us. Yeah, that's just it's a little Sterlite plastic bin. It has 2 compartments, and you can open each individually, so you can just kind of ditch the bottom or ditch the top. And it's super handy. It's clear, so you can find exactly what you're looking for very easily. Right. It's not anything that you would want to take on the road in terms of a bigger trip that you're going to have to take a plane for or anything like that. But it's something you can easily pop into the trunk of your car and walk short distances with.
Right. Yeah. So it's definitely something that you want to put the container, put a camera in, and then put all your other tools in, just so you don't have everything like loose goosey in a backpack. Or something.
Yeah. And I've got different containers for different types of needs. So I have like a small wheeled, I don't know if people would call it a train case or something, but it's like a little rolling suitcase, but it's about half of the normal size, right? So it's more like a briefcase size thing. It's expandable, but it's hard side. And when I'm doing research that's in other states or other countries, that's the type of thing that that gear winds up getting packed into instead.
Okay. And then, so what else will we put into, like, one thing's like, you're not the first person to mention this, but like you're the first person to like really dive deep into like what it could do for, because I don't own one of these, but I've seen a lot of people use it. Live Scribe Echo Pen, is that right?
Yeah. So this is probably the biggest recent. I mean, I would say recent, like probably within the past 5 years that I started using it. But I find it so handy. So of course, ethically, you should let anybody know when you're recording a conversation with them. But your participants for interviews should be made aware that you are recording them. But it's a lot less obtrusive to just be using a pen that is capturing that sound than to have a microphone that you're shoving into somebody's face that is a bit more obtrusive. They're aware of it constantly. It's easier to kind of forget, and that forgetting enables a relaxation, and that relaxation enables a little bit more forthrightness from the people that you're talking to. So it's a really handy thing. But aside from what it gets you in terms of more open conversation with your participants, it enables quicker, easier analysis, because as you're handwriting the notes, it works with special paper, and the audio that was being captured at the time the pen was moving on the paper is easily indexed. So when you are done and come back to it later, you tap with the pen on that particular word, and audio playback starts from exactly when that word was written.
Oh, nice. All right, cool.
Yeah,
and that
it's
way,
really powerful.
Yeah, and that way you don't have to write down every word or phrase that was said.
It frees you up from worrying about like, oh, that was really important, and I also have to look at my watch and write down the time so I can find that quote again. Instead it lets you just tap on that word, and then maybe you back it up a couple of seconds just to get the start of it, but it saves tons of time for analysis.
Right. And so let's see. And then so Live Scribe Echo Pen, that comes with and you have to buy the smart paper. That's
Yeah,
something special.
you do have to buy the paper. It comes in different formats, so it's everything from just a little reporter's jot kind of flip notebook to something that's more like the size of a moleskin notebook, to spiral bound regular letter size paper, which is 3-hole punched, so you can put it in a binder. But they also have little tiny things. They have stickers and Post-it notes as well. So there's lots of form factors. But yeah, the paper is not, I don't find it prohibitively expensive, especially given how useful it is.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so we have a pen, it's electronic, you have to get special paper, that goes in the bin, but then you would also probably say you need a backup power cord for it, batteries for it.
Yeah, you should always have battery backup with you. So like a little rechargeable battery that works with a USB, micro USB cord,
Yeah.
is kind of an essential for any kind of field work, really. But if you find that you're planning a study where you're going to be outside all day, maybe you're doing observational work at a public place, and you need to see how people are behaving and capture general notes, you might want to go a step further and not just bring that backup battery, but also bring a solar charger, so that you're not losing the power on your phone or something else that you are going to need later in the day.
Okay. Cool. All right. So let's see what else we would. Anything else you would put into the container?
Let's see. What did we talk about? We talked about a camera. We talked about the Live Scribe.
I noticed.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Go ahead. I noticed like this. You had this big honking label maker.
Yeah, I mean, and that's not that's not something you would necessarily take with you on every trip, but I think it's nice to have. Um, USB hubs are kind of an important thing, and I've got one here on my desk, and I think it's got eight eight different USB cords plugged into it. So one of the things that you can do with the label maker that's really nice, aside from like labeling your hard drives in terms of what's on them or which backup they are for, is you can make a little label for what device does this USB cord belong to,
Yeah.
and just wrap it around the tail end of it. But I also like things like little rubberized smartphone stands, which are handy for, you could use them almost as a tripod for some kind of recording with like a flip camera or something, but also to make signs on a disposable whiteboard to help people find you or get to you. Or
There's such a thing as a disposable whiteboard?
yeah, I mean, disposable is maybe not the right word, but like portable, but
Oh, portable.
kind of like letter sized. So I've got a couple. Parents might have some around the house for the kids to practice handwriting on. They might call them a whiteboard slate or something.
Okay.
I'm not sure, but basically just a little cheap whiteboard can be a really helpful thing. And a clipboard, always a clipboard.
Right. Yeah. And so there's also like Beta Book is a Kickstarter I sponsored, but it's like a book that folds. It's a whiteboard that folds. And so I like that, like, because then you just fold it up and I can put it in my backpack and I can just have a whiteboard with me. I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, but I do want to get like so. But you wouldn't put a whiteboard into your container, right? That's like a bit too big.
Well, I wouldn't put like a big whiteboard, but I would a smaller like letter size piece of paper, or A5, A4 piece of paper.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then so get that in there. Then also one thing I thought was pretty, I didn't know existed until you brought it out, was the flat Ethernet cable. Was that?
Yes.
I didn't know that existed. Like we have like so many Ethernet cords around our office that the regular Ethernet cable, that the flat is just so compact. I was
It's
like, oh, yeah.
so nice. Yeah, that's such a weird little quirky thing too, right? But one of the things I showed was like I had this 6 foot long Ethernet cable, and compared to the flat, it basically the 6 foot one took up the same amount of space that 150 feet of the flat cable takes up.
Right. So, yeah. It's like 6 feet is just like this big ball of plastic.
Yeah.
And then like 150 foot one, is that
150 feet? Yeah.
Oh, that was crazy. And then the rationale behind bringing an Ethernet cord is that everyone just loves Wi-Fi. We all like kids, adults, all sizes, all ages love Wi-Fi, but all Wi-Fi is not created equal.
Right.
But we plug it so it'll drop from time to time. I've been in places where the Wi-Fi is excellent, but it'll just drop every once in a while.
That's right.
You don't need that, when you're trying to test web apps. And so definitely I support people. I carry Ethernet cord with me wherever I go, actually, in a trip, because you never know, because you plug it in and you're just like, yes, I'm addicted to the internet. I want to make sure it's constantly going, and I don't have to be worried about it. So, but yeah, so definitely I would put, so in the container, I would put like flat Ethernet cord in there. I didn't know it existed until you showed it to me.
Yep.
So what else random things you put in there? I think the being nice to strangers, collections of accoutrements. I thought tissues, mints, and hand wipes.
Yes. Although, I mean, to be honest, this is being nice to yourself as a researcher as much as it is, considering somebody else's needs. So, yeah, I mean, the mints go both ways. The mints go both ways. Cough drops go both ways. Tissues, but yeah, I think those little hand wipes are really great to have. So after you're done crawling under a table to plug in your flat Ethernet cable, you might need a hand wipe.
Definitely. And then I just want to round out the things that you go in a caddy. That little like plastic caddy was a tricolor highlighter, dual tip Sharpie for marking things up, and then yeah, and then I'm not sure exactly how you describe it, but I think it was a weighted pull cord caddy. So like you would have all these USB cords plugged into
Right, right.
plugged
So
in, you have all these cords.
Quirky, that's right. Quirky makes a little weighted cord holder, cord caddy, and it's super helpful to keep power cables and other cables from slipping off the edge of a table or a desk. And yeah, you're gonna have a lot of cords when you're doing this kind of work and you're setting things up. So that can be a handy thing to have. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I mean it's great that we can actually like have a portable UX lab. Pretty much is what you're like doing out in the wild with
Yeah.
the Safari, but
Yeah.
you still need all these cords, you know, to make it work. And then you did mention earlier, I think, the clipboard. And what I loved about the clipboard was that you said that it's a nice piece of social engineering.
It is.
Yeah.
It is totally social engineering. So yeah, I feel like I need your audience to take a little pledge that they're not going to use this for evil. But basically, people will talk to you. If you have a clipboard, it gives you some air of, I don't want to say authority, but at least professionalism, right? So it's the same reason that if you go out and you are in a public space and you see somebody just standing around, if you watch them, they will take out their phone or they will look at their watch, and those are signaling behaviors that say, it's okay that I'm here. Like,
Yeah.
I have a legitimate reason to be, I'm just waiting for somebody, and it's okay that I'm here. So a clipboard is the same kind of thing. Like, it's okay for you to talk to me because I have a clipboard. So, yeah. So be careful. Don't open your door to people with clipboards.
Yeah, and then yeah, because I think it's so awesome because like you, there's been a couple times you go to movies and then like it's a premiere and then there's someone who's waiting there. That's just like one time like people would ask. I've seen it. Just people have a clipboard and then ask me what I thought of the movie, and I was just like I like a total stranger is gonna ask me what I think of the movie, but I have opinions about movies, so I don't really care who listens to me about that. So,
well, yeah. I mean, it might be harder for folks in Austin to understand because the city is very friendly as a whole, but there are other places where people do not talk to strangers, and it's really not okay. But in Austin, you can meet your best friend in line at the grocery store. So, yeah, we talk to everybody in this town.
Yes, exactly. So, cool. Yeah. Is there anything else that would that we need for tools and gadgets?
Oh, I think those are the big ones. I think if you're going to do a lot of field work and you've got, I think the other two tools that are really handy, obviously you can't fit it in a little toolbox, but a laser printer is super great to have.
Oh, nice.
And the reason is because if you are organized about the research that you're doing, you'll have an interview guide or some kind of structured documentation that's printed out ahead of time. It's a lot faster and a lot more consistent for you to be working off of that than to just try to take notes freehand with no structure. And even if you were going to do them freehand, for you to kind of put the structure in yourself by writing, then things get convoluted between, were you making a heading or is this really an observation and all of that kind of stuff. So a printer, and then of course if you have printed material, surveys and things like that as well, you'll want to have a scanner. And of course there are apps that you could use on your phone. The only caveat that I'll mention for that is, do you know where that data is going? If you are working for an enterprise on something that's highly sensitive, you probably want a standalone scanner that you can control where that data is going to, and maybe it's just a little SD card that's part of the scanner that's plugged directly in. Then it's not going to the cloud. It's not going to be vulnerable to prying eyes.
Okay. Right. And like, there's so many like awesome portable scanners out there. It's pretty easy to put one in a backpack and it doesn't really weigh that much.
Yeah, I would say the Fujitsu ScanSnap is probably the gold standard for that, as far as the portable scanners.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So, any other gadgets or tools that someone would need for Safari?
Tons of gadgets and tools. Tons.
So,
I could talk about these for days. I've got so
nice.
much equipment.
Oh, man, awesome. Yeah. So I didn't know one piece of software was what's called TechSmith Moray. Is that right?
Moray, that's right.
Moray. And so
Yeah.
that, what does that do exactly?
So, Moray has 3 different components to it, and it's um, a suite of products that work together. So there's Moray Recorder, Moray Observer, and Moray Manager. And Recorder it's basically a screen capture program on steroids. So it allows you to see what your test participant is doing on a computer. It allows you to have mouse tracking on, so there could be a trail. It's easier for you to find where their mouse is. And it enables all kinds of other data capture, or as we in the field call it, data logging. So you're able to be very specific, which is all tied to timestamps as well. You're able to be very specific about what behaviors are occurring, and tracking that by participant, which enables you to look in analysis across participants or within participants for different trends and themes, and where different problems are occurring. One of the things that I love about Moray is that Observer, of course, allows your stakeholders or anybody who is coming to watch your test, it will broadcast that live feed, including the audio and video. So you'll have a headshot of the participant in a corner of the screen as they're working on the screen. It broadcasts all of that into a second computer, so you can have folks who are not directly in the room still see exactly what's going on.
Oh, nice.
And the cool thing, as far as that data capture I was mentioning, that data logging, is they have a feature that works with a Bluetooth adapter and a Wiimote. So if you have a Nintendo Wii video game, you can use one of those controllers, or even if you don't, you can buy those controllers individually. They're about $40, and you can specify which buttons or actions on that Wiimote mean what to you for your particular study. And so every time somebody hits a particular button, you might press the trigger, squeeze the trigger on your Wiimote, and it's captured exactly what it is you need to know.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Or maybe I could get the Nintendo glove. I can get that going.
Yeah, I don't know that it works with the glove. That's pretty cool, though.
Yeah.
Might be a little intimidating to your participant. But
All right, let's do some UX.
excuse me. That's the cool thing, though, with the Wiimote is that's something that's just handheld. You could have it, I mean, I don't think you need to be secretive about it, but you could be holding it in your lap or under a desk or a table, or, and be capturing all of this data that is, really complicated to be tracking. And the Moray Manager allows you to go back through all of those files and create and edit videos and things to show your executives and stakeholders. So it's a really powerful tool, and it's a pro tool, but it's worth the investment.
Right. So how much is that the manager?
It's about $2,000 right now, $2,000.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it's an investment, but I think it's totally worth it to get the stakeholders to see if they're going to come down and watch it.
Yeah. It enables, so it's a pro tool, but it enables pro work.
Yeah.
So if your product, if your app, if your software is worth doing this kind of research for, it can be worth making that investment.
Right. Okay. Cool. Is there anything else? Any other tool that you would suggest?
Moray is really the gold standard, but I think that, again, it's useful for some things and not for other things. So there's a suite of tools from Optimal Workshop that are really just terrific. So TreeJack and Chalkmark and Optimal Sort. And Optimal Workshop is a fantastic company. So I would look into those tools as well to add them to your toolkit.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for doing this. I really wanted to reach out and just talk to you about UX tools and gadgets because I love the talk so much. And I've been on the web for forever, it seems, and I'm just trying to get a better handle of UX and user experience testing and goals and with that in terms of making things better on the internet, on
Thank
the
you
web for
so
people.
much.
Cool.
Thanks. Yeah, it's been
Cool.
fun to talk about. And I'll be speaking at the UXPA conference in Seattle, which is in May. And that'll be on managing UX. And I'm also speaking on managing UX at UX Hong Kong.
Oh,
so
nice.
If you have never been to Hong Kong, or if you have, you know how awesome it is. If you're looking for a business reason to make a trip, UX Hong Kong is it.
Nice. And where can people find you if they have any questions about UX tools and gadgets, or just want to follow up with UX?
Yeah, they can find me at Revel Insight, and you can check the web for that, or find me on Facebook.
All right. Awesome. Cool. Well, thanks so much, Annette.
Thank you.
Cool.